The year is 2026, and the Middle East has just been set ablaze by a lightning-fast joint air campaign that decapitated Iran's top leadership before the sun even rose on February 28th.
We are witnessing the opening moves of Operation Epic Fury, a conflict where the traditional definitions of winning and losing have been completely thrown out the window.
While the headlines focus on the sheer power of American stealth bombers and Israeli precision, the real story is much more calculated and, frankly, much more dangerous for the global economy.
We need to look past the smoke and mirrors of the initial strikes to understand the high-stakes chess game being played here.
You see, Iran isn't trying to outgun the United States in a head-on collision. That would be military suicide. Instead, their strategy is built on two cold, hard pillars: survival and exhaustion.
Let's break this down because it's something analysts are calling a masterclass in asymmetrical defiance.
Iran's military apparatus understands that the biggest threat to the Pentagon isn't a missile, it's the fading political will of the American public.
People are already tired of decade-long conflicts, and Tehran knows it.
Their goal is to make this fight so expensive, so bloody, and so disruptive to your daily life that the pressure to withdraw becomes overwhelming.
We're talking about the potential total closure of the Strait of Hormuz, a move that would send oil prices into a vertical climb and leave everyone from New York to Tokyo feeling the sting at the gas pump.
The online world is already exploding with theories.
One top-rated comment on a trending news thread says, "We can sink their ships, but can we afford the $5 a gallon jump in gas that comes with it?"
Another netizen pointed out, it's not about who has the better jets, it's about who can stay in the ring longer without collapsing from the cost.
This is the geopolitical reality facing our pilots as they fly into one of the most densely layered air defense networks on the planet.
Even as we see the legendary A-10 Warthog being called into action, we have to ask ourselves if we are prepared for the cost of a victory that Iran is determined to make as painful as possible.
Let's dive deep into how this 2026 landscape changed everything we thought we knew about modern warfare.
Now, as we look at the opening weeks of Operation Epic Fury, a staggering statistic has the internet buzzing with intense concern and debate. We're talking about the reported loss of at least 10, maybe 11 MQ-9 Reaper drones in just the first 14 days of the conflict. To many netizens watching these reports from home, this looks like a total technological disaster.
One widely shared comment I saw recently summed up the public shock perfectly. How can we justify flushing over $300 million worth of high-tech drones down the drain in just 2 weeks?
But if we peel back the layers of this high-stakes aerial chess match, a much more calculated and cold-blooded reality emerges.
You see, these Reapers aren't just failing their missions. In many ways, they are being used as the ultimate sacrificial lambs.
Iran has spent decades hiding its road-mobile air defense systems, like the S-300 and the Bavar 373, in deep tunnels and reinforced bunkers, waiting for a chance to strike. By sending these slow, non-stealthy drones directly into the heart of the hornet's nest, the U.S. is essentially forcing the enemy's hand. The moment an Iranian crew decides to take the bait and fire on a Reaper, they blink. They reveal their hidden coordinates to the silent F-35s and F-22s hovering high above, which are ready to rain down precision ordnance the second that radar signature goes live. It's a brutal, high-cost trade-off, sacrificing a $20 million drone to dismantle a sophisticated, multi-billion-dollar air defense network. This is the silent, costly price of paving a safer path for the manned aircraft that must follow.
Now, you might be thinking that with the initial decapitation strikes taking out the top leadership, the Iranian sky would be a wide-open door for American air power.
But as many military analysts and concerned netizens are pointing out in the comment sections today, blunted is a far, far cry from eliminated. Let's look at this from the perspective of the Iranian Air Defense Command.
They have had nearly half a century to prepare for a conflict with the West, and they know they cannot win a traditional head-to-head battle.
Instead, they have turned their massive territory, nearly 3 times the size of France, into a sprawling underground hornet's nest. We are talking about a layered, uneven network, where high-profile systems like the Russian-sourced S-300 PMU-2 and the domestic Bavar 373 are just the start. The Bavar 373, in particular, is a beast, with its Sayad 4B interceptors reportedly capable of reaching out to a staggering 400 kilometers.
But the real nightmare for a pilot isn't just the range, it's the mobility.
These crews aren't sitting ducks. They are playing a deadly game of hide-and-seek, tucking their launchers into mountain tunnels and only popping up to fire when a target enters their envelope.
You have probably seen the reports of the MQ-9 Reapers. At least 10 or 11 of them have been downed in just the first 2 weeks. That is upwards of $350 million worth of high-tech hardware turned into scrap.
One popular online comment summed up the anxiety perfectly. If a specialized high-altitude drone cannot survive, how is a slow 40-year-old Warthog supposed to last 5 minutes?
It is a chillingly valid point. To an Iranian missile operator, an A-10 cruising at 340 miles per hour isn't a legend. It is easy pickings. They aren't trying to secure air superiority. They are trying to score a propaganda win that shatters American political will. In this environment, every flight is a high-stakes gamble against a hidden enemy that only needs to be lucky once.
Now, you might be asking yourself the same question currently echoing through the halls of the Pentagon. In an age of invisible fighters and hypersonic technology, why on earth are we still sending a slow, chunky Cold War relic like the A-10 Warthog into Iranian airspace? It feels almost contradictory, doesn't it? On one hand, we have the F-22s and F-35s, the high-tech door kickers, performing the surgical task of suppression of enemy air defenses.
They blunt the teeth of Iran's S-300s and Bavar 373 systems to create a window of opportunity.
But once that window is cracked open, the Warthog steps in to provide something a stealth jet simply can't: brutal, grinding persistence. We're talking about a high-low strategic mix.
While an F-16 might have to RTB for fuel after a short window, the A-10 can loiter over the battlefield for upwards of 2 hours. It's the difference between a quick glance and a steady stare.
You've likely seen the heated debates among netizens online, with some critics labeling it a flying coffin in the face of modern manpads, while others passionately defend it as the infantryman's best friend.
One viral comment recently summarized the sentiment perfectly, stating, "The A-10 isn't just an aircraft, it's a psychological insurance policy for every soldier on the ground."
From a strategic standpoint, it also comes down to the cold, hard math of attrition.
Why risk a $100 million F-35 to hunt a cheap drone when the A-10 can do it with a $30 burst from its GAU-8 cannon or a repurposed APKWS rocket? We are essentially using Uncle Sam's oldest and newest tools in a synchronized dance. However, we must be realistic. The Pentagon is walking a tightrope here.
Every sortie over Iran is a gamble against a layered defense that is blunted but far from eliminated.
We are squeezing every last drop of utility out of this titanium-armored legend before the sun finally sets on its 50-year career.
Now, if the MQ-9 Reaper we just discussed is a delicate precision instrument, then the A-10 Thunderbolt II is the heavy-duty sledgehammer of the sky.
To truly understand why this aircraft is still relevant in 2026, we need to look at it through the eyes of an aerospace engineer.
Imagine sitting inside a 1,200-pound bathtub made of solid armored titanium. That is not a metaphor. It is the literal reality for every Warthog pilot. This titanium tub was specifically engineered to house the cockpit and vital flight controls, providing a shield capable of withstanding direct hits from 23mm anti-aircraft guns. While modern stealth jets rely on hiding, the A-10 was built to take a punch and keep swinging. You might have seen enthusiasts on military forums debating its age, with one popular comment often stating, "The A-10 isn't just a plane, it's a flying tank that refuses to acknowledge physics."
And that sentiment isn't far from the truth. The level of redundancy here is staggering. We are talking about double redundant hydraulic flight control systems, but the engineers didn't stop there.
They added a third, completely mechanical backup system. This means that even if the hydraulics are completely bled dry by enemy fire, the pilot can still manually fly the beast home.
It is this rugged philosophy that allows the Warthog to survive scenarios that would be fatal for any other platform.
We are talking about an aircraft designed to stay airborne even after losing one of its two General Electric engines, half of its tail, or even an entire half of a wing.
It is the zombie of the aerial battlefield.
In the high-risk environment of Iran, where man-portable air defense systems and small arms fire are hidden in every shadow, this internal toughness is the only reason a pilot can dare to fly so low and slow. It transforms the aircraft from a mere machine into a legendary protector of the infantry, proving that in the chaos of 2026, raw survivability is still a premium asset.
Now let's take a seat right inside that cockpit and look through the heads-up display of an A-10 pilot.
Imagine you are strapped into a 1,200-pound titanium tub, flying just a few hundred feet above the jagged Iranian terrain.
While the F-35s and F-22s are operating in the stealthy shadows of the high atmosphere, you are down here, low and slow, cruising at a modest 340 miles per hour.
It's an environment that military enthusiasts often call the kill zone, and for a good reason.
You might have seen the heated debates on defense forums lately, with one netizen famously commenting, "The Warthog is a flying tank that eats 23mm shells for breakfast." While that legendary toughness is real, the reality in 2026 is far more sobering. You aren't just facing old Soviet anti-aircraft guns anymore. You are flying into a literal hornet's nest of modern manpads and layered surface-to-air missiles.
Every time you bank the aircraft, you're scanning for that telltale smoke trail of a shoulder-fired infrared missile.
These systems are hidden in every valley and on every rooftop, and they don't give you much time to react.
You're constantly punching flares and relying on those double redundant flight controls, knowing that even a slight delay in signal could be the end. Think about the tension of knowing that 10 or 11 MQ-9 Reapers, drones worth millions, have already been swatted out of the sky in just the last 2 weeks.
If those high-tech drones are vulnerable, what does that mean for you? Some critics online are asking, why are we still sending pilots into this meat grinder in 50-year-old airframes? It's a fair question. You're piloting a machine built to survive the Cold War against a defense network that has been evolving for half a century to stop exactly what you're doing.
It's not just about the armor anymore. It's a high-stakes game of hide-and-seek, where the seeker has radar-guided interceptors with 300-pound warheads.
In this cockpit, the legendary Burt of the GAU-8 Avenger cannon feels less like a guarantee of victory and more like a defiant roar in the face of overwhelming odds. Now, imagine for a moment that you are a grunt on the ground, pinned down in the rugged Iranian terrain during Operation Epic Fury. In those heart-pounding seconds between enemy volleys, there is one specific sound that changes the entire atmosphere of the battlefield, that iconic, guttural Burt of the GAU-8 Avenger rotary cannon.
For the infantry, this is far more than just mechanical noise. It is the literal sound of salvation echoing through the valleys.
You see, while modern multi-role marvels like the F-16 are incredibly fast and capable, they are often in and out of the strike zone in a heartbeat. But the Warthog, it is built for the long haul. We are looking at a sustained loiter time of up to 2 full hours. That is a staggering 4 times longer than what an F-16 can typically provide overhead. This low and slow approach is exactly why ground troops have dubbed it their absolute best friend for decades. On military forums and across the defense community, you will often see veterans sharing the sentiment that if you can hear the gun, it was not aimed at you, reflecting the sheer psychological relief this plane brings to those in the line of fire. One popular online comment recently put it perfectly, stating that no high-tech drone or stealth jet provides the same warm blanket of security as a Warthog circling above for 2 hours.
That legendary persistence creates a unique psychological bond between the pilot and the soldiers below, providing a constant, armored guardian angel that stays until the last magazine is empty and the path is clear.
You simply cannot discuss the A-10 without focusing on the very machine it was literally built around, that massive 30mm GAU-8 Avenger rotary cannon. Think about the sheer physics of it for a moment.
We are talking about 65 shells, each one the size of a milk bottle, leaving those barrels every single second. It is less of a traditional gun and more of a literal laser beam of mixed armor-piercing and high-explosive rounds. When you hear that legendary brrr sound, you aren't just hearing a weapon. You're hearing the sound of a mechanical monster that was designed to buy time during the end of the world.
But why does this old-timer still captivate us in 2026?
It really comes down to a fascinating mix of raw power and ruthless economic logic that has netizens and military analysts constantly debating.
One common sentiment you'll see in online defense communities is the sheer disbelief at the cost-to-kill ratio. One user recently noted, "Why waste a sophisticated missile on a cheap drone when the Warthog can do it for the price of a used car?" And the math actually backs that up.
While a brand new AIM-9X missile can climb toward $500,000, a single 30mm shell might only cost between $25 and $136.
Even if a pilot squeezes off a half-second burst to disintegrate an Iranian Shahed-style drone, the cost only ranges from $800 to about $4,000.
In a conflict where Iran is trying to make the war unpalatable through sheer attrition, the A-10's cannon is the ultimate counterargument.
It allows commanders to save their high-tech, expensive precision munitions for hardened air defenses, while the Warthog uses its laser beam to sweep the skies and the battlefield of cheaper threats.
It's the perfect blend of legendary toughness and fiscal responsibility, proving that sometimes the most sophisticated solution is just a very, very big gun.
Now, let's take a closer look at the teeth this old hog is bearing, because it's a fascinating mix of the past and the future. You'll notice the AIM-9M sidewinders hanging there.
These are essentially 1980s technology, and while military enthusiasts on social media are busy arguing that we should be using the high-tech AIM-9X, the reality is much more calculated. One netizen recently joked, "Is the Air Force just cleaning out its basement?" Well, in a way, yes, and it's brilliant. Using a missile that costs a realized $84,000 to down a drone is a strategic masterstroke compared to firing a modern $500,000 interceptor.
But the real star of this technical setup is the APKWS, those 70mm rockets turned into laser-guided snipers.
For just about $15,000 to $20,000, these can pick off a Shahed-style drone from over 7 miles away. It's a low-cost solution for a low-cost threat. We are seeing a budget-friendly air defense net that actually works, proving that here in 2026, being smart with the wallet is just as important as being fast on the trigger. It is this weird, beautiful synergy of decades-old airframes and cutting-edge guidance sections that keeps the Warthog relevant, even as its peers head to the boneyard.
You have to wonder, is this the ultimate math of war playing out right before our eyes?
Many observers are calling it the most efficient trade-off in modern history, ensuring the US isn't just winning the kinetic battle, but the economic one as well.
It's not about having the flashiest gear, it's about having the right tool for a very specific, very dangerous job.
As we watch these 50-year-old warbirds navigate the complex skies over Iran in 2026, a massive storm is brewing, not just in the cockpit, but across the global military community. You've likely seen the heated debates erupting in comment sections and defense forums worldwide, where everyone seems to have a passionate opinion. On one side, we have the Warthog loyalists. They argue that you simply cannot replace the psychological comfort and raw power of the 30mm GAU Avenger. You'll often see comments from veterans stating that when you hear that signature burr, you know you're coming home.
These supporters see the A-10's current role in Operation Epic Fury as a stroke of genius, especially as a cost-effective drone hunter.
They pose a compelling question. Why waste $1 million interceptor on a slow-moving Shahed-style drone when a half-second burst of cannon fire costs less than a used car?
But then we encounter the pragmatists, and their arguments are becoming increasingly difficult to ignore.
They point to the grim reality of the current campaign, noting that if Iran's layered defenses have already claimed at least 10 MQ-9 Reapers, what happens when a slow A-10 flies into the engagement envelope of an S-300 or a Bavar 373? The digital battlefield is deeply divided. Critics are bluntly asking if our collective nostalgia is worth the $1.3 billion annual price tag required just to keep the fleet airworthy.
To put that in perspective, many analysts note that this budget could instead increase our F-35 purchases by over a dozen brand new jets every single year.
It's a classic clash between a legendary, rugged past and a high-stakes, high-tech future.
We find ourselves asking, is the A-10 a vital, irreplaceable asset, or is it a flying relic that places pilots in the crosshairs of modern surface-to-air missiles?
As the war continues, every mission becomes a high-stakes data point in this trial by fire.
You have to wonder, are we witnessing the glorious final chapter of a legend? Or are we simply watching the sunset of an era that has already passed?
Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, or rather the $1.3 billion hog in the hangar. Have you ever wondered what that massive pile of cash actually buys us in 2026?
From the perspective of a defense economist, we are looking at a classic case of diminishing returns.
Maintaining this aging fleet isn't just about fuel and bullets anymore. It's about nursing half-century-old airframes through a high-tech conflict where they are increasingly outmatched. You have probably seen the heated debates in the comment sections online, with some die-hard fans shouting, "Long live the Burt," while critics argue we are just throwing good money after bad.
One netizen recently put it bluntly, saying, "I love the Warthog, but I don't love paying for its retirement home when we desperately need more stealth." And they have a valid point. That $1.3 billion isn't just a number, it is a massive trade-off. To put it into perspective, that budget is enough to jump our F-35 procurement from 25 new jets a year all the way up to 38.
Think about that for a second. We are choosing to keep a legend on life support instead of putting 13 more fifth-generation stealth fighters into the sky every single year.
It is a gut-wrenching decision for any commander.
While the A-10 is still out there proving its grit in the skies over Iran, we have to ask ourselves, how much longer can we afford the nostalgia before the cost of maintaining the past starts compromising our ability to win the future?
So as we watch these titanium tubs navigate the dangerous skies over Iran in 2026, we have to ask ourselves, are we finally witnessing the end of a legendary era?
It is a question that has sparked heated debates across military forums and social media alike. Think about it. The A-10 Thunderbolt II first took flight in 1977.
It was a machine built for a World War III that thankfully never came, designed to chew through Soviet tanks in the valleys of Europe. But look where it is now. From the sands of the Persian Gulf in 1991 to the complex, high-threat environment of Operation Epic Fury today, this aircraft has redefined itself more times than almost any other platform in history. You will see comments online where one side argues, "It is 2026, why are we spending $1.3 billion a year on a flying museum when we could have more F-35s?
And then you have the veterans and the ground troops who fire back. You cannot replace that psychological comfort of having a Warthog loitering overhead for 2 hours.
It is that exact friction between modern efficiency and legendary grit that makes this final deployment so poignant. In this Iranian conflict, the A-10 is not just a relic, it is a specialized tool.
Whether it is hunting down low-cost drones or providing that heavy-hitting support for our allies, it is proving that there is still life in those twin engines.
But let us be real, with the wear and tear of half a century, this is clearly the Warthog's sunset tour. It is a bittersweet moment for all of us.
We are watching a legend that refused to retire, finding one last fight to cement its place in the history books.
As it fades into the twilight of its career, we realize it is not just about the armored tub or the 30mm cannon. It is about the spirit of a plane that stayed in the fight long after everyone else said it was finished.
You have to wonder, when the last Warthog finally touches down, will anything ever truly fill that void in the hearts of the infantry?